this is how I waterproof and oil my leather boots. I use some leather conditioner and boot grease of my own making. It's backwards, I think, right? I don't know. Anyway, I call it Bearbajan boot grease and leather conditioner. This is 1 part rendered bear fat, 1 part rendered pine sap, 1 part needsfoot oil, and 1 part beeswax. So it's 4 parts total, 1 part of each. Makes them an amazing, amazing boot grease. It's actually a recipe that my grandpa, my great uncle, got when they were teens from an old timer guy that was a logger and a trapper in Trinity County here in Northern California. So it's a really old recipe that I use. You can use whatever you want, but this is what I make, and it works amazing. It will oil and waterproof these boots for the rest of the winter. I usually only use this maybe every once or every 2 times that I oil my boots because I don't want to put too much beeswax and stuff into my boots. So I'll do like a couple good coats of this, and then the next time I oil my boots in a couple months or whatever, I'll use like Obenoffs or something. And then, you know, next year or whatever, whenever I decide to do it again, I'll use this. So I do this maybe 2 or 3 times a year, and then I'll oil my boots with regular boot grease, you know, maybe 3, 4, 5 times a year. So in between the uses of this. I washed them earlier. I just run them under hot water with a stiff bristle brush and I wash it off. I don't use soap. I just kind of give it a little bit of a scrub. It is what it is. And I like to take some old tweezers that are just laying around, and I'll get the foxtails and stuff out of the sole, between the sole and the boot there, before I really start oiling them up. First thing I got to do is warm these boots up. I washed them earlier, like I said, and I let them dry, and I used the heat gun to warm them up a little bit. So now I'll just warm them up so that it takes the grease better, or the boot grease better. And I'll do warm the boots up, do a layer of boot grease, get it all on there, and then I'll use the heat gun to really warm it up and melt that beeswax and get it to soak into the boot. And I'll probably do that 2 or 3 times. I don't want to obviously run the heat gun right on the leather. Like I don't want to get it super hot, but I want to warm it up enough to where the leather wants to take all the boot grease. Because if you don't do that, then you're just going to put a layer on there on the outside, and it'll get wiped off within the first, you know, week or 2, and then you're going to lose the waterproofing ability of it. But if you heat it up, or if you make sure your boots are nice and warm and you heat it up well before you put the boot grease on, and then you heat it up in between coats, it does a really good job of getting that boot grease down in the boots. And that's what I like to do. I just put gloves on because I step in all kinds of nasty shit when I'm wearing these boots on calls, so I'd rather not get anything from them. And I always have cut hands, so there's definitely a possibility for that. But I'll just take a rag and lather it on with the boot grease, and that'll be that. I'll do one and then the other. So during fire season, these boots see much hotter temperatures than what that heat gun's gonna put out. But like I said, you don't want to freaking pile the heat into one spot at one time. It's just not good for it. And sometimes it helps. And it helps to warm up the boot grease a little bit, so it gets on the rag easier, and you can get a chunk, throw it on there, and then lather it around. My boots are they're pretty dry. I haven't oiled them in a while, so they're gonna appreciate this for sure. I'll do one boot completely, and then I'll kind of show the difference in what they look like between the one I just did and the other one, so you guys can kind of get an idea of how much different they look. And I really like to make sure that I rub this stuff into the seams and melt it into the seams really good. because that's usually where you're going to get the penetration from water or whatever you walk in. Usually water, blood. I'd rather not have blood seep through my boots. That would suck. It'd be gross. This rag is not doing a good job of staying together. I forget the name. I think it's called the last. This part between the rubber sole and then the upper is I think it's the last. I forget. If you don't follow JK Boots on YouTube, you probably should. They make some awesome videos. I didn't know how to oil my boots properly until I watched their video on how to do it. And it's a great video. And in that video, he talks about how often you should oil your boots and that you don't want to get oil on this part. If you oil this part and you get it in there, it could start separating from, I think, the bottom of the sole. So try not to get oil on that, or it could potentially ruin your boots. I have some Nick's boots, great boots. They're kind of my wildland boots that I wear, like if I'm on a strike team out on a wildfire or something. And those are great boots as well. But after I had ankle surgery a couple years ago, and after that surgery, my left ankle kind of just doesn't really like high-heeled boots, so I don't wear them as often. But those boots are amazing boots, and I think, unfortunately, this is before I knew that you weren't supposed to get grease or oil on the last. I did that, and it kind of caused the front toe area of the last and the boot to come apart. So that kind of sucks. This rag is really falling apart. I'm gonna just use my hand. Yeah, just use my hand. And so that's a bit of a bummer because those are great boots. I mean, I still use them all the time. I still wear them. But you know, eventually they'll probably need to get resold sooner than they would have otherwise if I had known beforehand. So the bear oil that I'm using in this boot grease is from, I can't remember which bear it was from, honestly. I guided bear hunts this year. One of my clients got a bear, and so it might be that fat. All my cans of rendered bear fat kind of all went together. So it was either that can, one of those cans of bear fat, or it was a can that one of my buddies Josh shot, a can of fat that came from a bear that one of my buddies Josh shot. And it was a huge toad of a bear, like probably over 400 pounds. And so it might be that fat. I can't remember which. And then the beeswax that I use in this is from my father-in-law. So he gave me a 5-gallon bucket of beeswax, just raw regular beeswax that he pulled out of the hive, and I rendered it all down and basically purified it with a cooking oil filter, and it turned out amazing. And that's what I used in my boot grease this time around, and I think it's going to do amazing. So, and I like using local stuff. Like I like using my father-in-law's stuff. You know, I'd rather use that than buy something from Amazon. You know, from someone that I don't know. I'd rather support a small business like my father-in-law's than a random person. So usually I take out the laces, but I don't have any other laces to put back in. Usually when I take the laces out, they're such a pain in the butt to get in and out. I just cut them out and then I'll put new laces in. But this time around I don't have any, so it is what it is. I forget his name, awesome dude. The dude at JK, the son of the owner who started the company. Per him, you're supposed to oil if you're wearing your boots every day, you're supposed to oil them like once a month. Or, you know, depending on what you're doing, maybe even more, who knows. I don't wear these every day. I work 2 days on, 4 days off. So, you know, I mean, every 2 months is probably a good rule of thumb for a guy like me to oil my boots. Do I do it? No, I don't. I gotta be honest, I don't. I should, I don't. But honestly, when I'm at work, like, we're just freaking busy. We run a crap load of calls, and I don't have time. And, you know, usually in the evening, like it is now, I'm freaking tired, man, because, like, we go work out at 4, and after that, like, I want to eat dinner and chill. I've been up since 6. Well, this morning I was up at 5:30, you know, and then our second day, like, I could be up basically all night long, and then the second day that we're on, it's like, nah, dude, I don't have the energy to oil my boots. So now I'll hit it with the heat gun and let this stuff really melt in there. You might be able to see it. And again, like during the summer, during wildland season, I walk through ash and stuff that just burnt. So these boots are used to seeing extreme temperatures. It's not, hitting it with this heat gun isn't a big deal. If I can still grab the boot and hold on to it, it's not too hot. You know, if you do this and use a heat gun and you start getting the boots too hot to where you can't even handle them, then yeah, you're probably warming it up too much. But how it is now, it's easy peasy, not a big deal. So there's the first layer done. And I mean, it soaked it right up, so I can probably do at least 1 or 2 more. I need to get all this, that rag left a bunch of residue on there or whatever. And since I got the boots nice and warm just now from melting this boot grease in there, it'll probably soak in a little bit better than it was the first time. I got it in along the ridge here above the sole pretty good, so I probably don't need to hit that as much as I did in the first go. Mainly just the rough out. The smooth part of the leather, the upper, it doesn't usually take as much. It's a little, you know, it's smooth, so it doesn't warrant as much. It doesn't soak as much in as well. Try not to get it on the last, but I'm totally getting it in some spots, but whatever. I got these boots from JK. I had to get them as a custom boot order after my ankle injury and subsequent surgery, because like I said, my ankle was not digging high-heeled boots. I was just rolling my ankle all the time after my surgery, which isn't good because I had 5 torn ligaments 2 ligaments, 2 tendons, and then they found like a 3rd tendon or something in there when they did the surgery. So after that, I ordered these boots. These are, I think, the OT, but they're like a low heel OT, and then I got them in like an 8-inch instead of a 10-inch and zippers. And so I had to get them as a custom order, and they were kind of expensive. They're like $725. That part sucked, but if it means I don't destroy my ankle again, whatever. But now I think they basically have these boots as an option that you can buy, so you don't have to spend as much. I think now they're like $400 and something, which is a great price compared to what I had to pay. And that's pretty standard in the market for, you know, fire service boots. yeah, it's taking this good. And now that their boots are nice and warm, they're gonna take this even better. I'm definitely gonna do a third round though. You know, oiling boots it's not, I mean, it's probably not done nearly enough by a lot of fire service guys. Like, unfortunately, like you're spending $500, $600, $700 in my case for these boots. They're like an investment. They're gonna save my back, my knees, my hips, my ankles for the duration that I have them. And especially with JK, they have such an awesome warranty issue, or warranty, I guess is what you call it. And they'll rebuild your boots, and they're rebuildable for 2 or 3 times depending on, you know, the wear of the boot. You should be doing this. If you're in the fire service and you're not oiling your boots like you should be, you should start. It's worth it. Like I said, boots are an investment, and you need to take care of them just like you do any other gear that you have at the fire department. So it still took that grease pretty easily, especially in the back here. Rule of thumb for me is when you put the heat gun to it, if it starts taking longer for that grease to go in, then the boots are getting full. You don't need to do another layer. But because that didn't take long, as soon as I hit it with the heat gun, it's still going in. I'm gonna give it at least another coat, especially this back part. I got a little red spray paint on my boots a while ago, so don't mind that. It'll come off eventually. If it doesn't, I don't really care. The front's definitely good now. I'm gonna do one more coat on the back here, and then we'll be good. We'll be done. Try to get all whatever leftover oils on the last off, just so it doesn't sit on there like it's not supposed to. So this is kind of what they look like before and after. Lighting in here blows, but kind of get the idea. You could go over this with a stiff bristle brush, and it'll bring the rough out up a little bit more, so they'll look a little more roughed out like this. This is just because there's a bunch of beeswax in there, and these are going to be waterproof basically for all winter. I can walk through puddles and all kinds of stuff, and my feet won't get wet. It's pretty amazing. So I'm going to do this other boot real fast, and then I'll show you the last step that I do to make sure my boots are in like tip-top condition. Got the boots all done. They look great, and they're well waterproof. The last thing I need to do is take some of the beeswax that I have left over and hit these zippers. I like to hit the zippers. It just makes it easier to go on and off. Puts a good layer of beeswax in there, and then it stays, and the zippers are less prone to get caught up on one another or anything like that. Just preserves them, I guess. Just makes them easier to use. Oh yeah, nice and smooth. Last one. And so, you know, I'm in the fire service. I also do tree removals. I'm not like a production timber faller by any means, but I still do lots of tree removals. And I wear leather boots or my whites or whatever I wear, my tree work boots when I do that. And that's another job that people wear boots like this on, and they just don't do a good job of keeping their boots oiled, man. It's just unreal. You spend all this money on these boots, and then you don't ever oil them, and you don't ever take care of them, and then they fall apart. And then a couple of years later, you're buying a new pair of boots instead of just sending them in to get resold. You got to go buy, you know, another 500 pair of boots or something. So that's it. This is how I do it. If you do it some other way, cool. If you don't like, I know a lot of people don't like using animal oils on their boots. whatever, dude. I don't care. It's probably not going to break the boots down. It's probably not bad for them. I know that getting it on the last is bad, but everything else I think is probably people just being nitpicky. So that's how I do it. Tell me what you think. Again, I like to use some of this stuff, a little logo and everything. It works amazing. And tell me what you think.